There we go. I got my jazz hands going. It's time for another mail call. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, hey, we had a mail call yesterday. Yeah, you did. But, my fanciness never stops, especially around the holiday season. So we are doing another mail call video today. I have received a package in the mail. It is right off screen. It is from friend of the show, Sean. And Sean took care of me and sent me some more James Bond on VHS. So not only are we going to go through, I'm going to pull out and we're going to take a look at each one, see what we've got. But I will also give a fun trivia fact on each one. And right now, I am pulling up my James Bond on VHS spreadsheet where I track all. And I currently have, this is before opening this box from Sean, I currently have 158 James Bond VHS tapes. Let's see where the totals go today. Feel free to ask any questions you want about that ridiculous collection of mine in the chat. Let me grab his box. Ooh, I got it right here. This is the box from Sean. Kind of appropriate. The guy who sent me Bond movies is named Sean. So I'm going to open the box. Just as a reminder, I collect Bond movies on VHS, right? So whenever I find them out in the wild and they are $3 or less, I buy them. Doesn't matter how many copies I have of that particular Bond movie already, I buy them. I do the same thing with Ninja Turtles and Batman also. But by far, my biggest collection is James Bond on VHS. And I have fellow cinephile friend on social media, Sean, who went to his local Goodwill and found a bunch. And he messaged me and said, hey, I found all these Bonds on VHS. And even with the shipping and everything, the price was right. So we're going to add to the collection. In fact, if you will, bear with me for just 1 second. I'm going to tag Sean in the X post that of this streaming event. So if he wants to jump on and say hello in the chat, that would be cool. There we are. Boom. All right. Let's see what's up. Another unboxing. Yes, welcome to the chat, my friend Jim the Joe Junkie, who knows everything about G.I. Joe. He's forgotten more about G.I. Joe than I will ever know. Yes, a second unboxing. 2 days in a row, Jim. VHS tapes. These are from a friend on social media named Sean. And he found these for me out and about. Oh, he did a good packaging job. He did a ridiculously good packaging job. Sean went above and beyond with the packaging. Each VHS tape is individually wrapped in bubble wrap. So let's get to it. I'm just so I have room to work. I'm gonna move this box. I should have thought of this sooner. I got art supplies all in the way because I've been drawing pictures over here. Move this box over to the right just a little. There we go. That'll give me some breathing room. Plus, I've got to type them into the spreadsheet. I know you all care deeply about the spreadsheet. So let's see. The first one is, man, this is a nice condition too. I hope they're all in this nice of a condition. The first one up, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Let's see. I promised you guys a trivia fact. Last time I did it, they were all video game related trivia facts. This time I'll just do a general trivia fact on each movie because I am such a James Bond fan. All right, so On Her Majesty's Secret Service is 1969. George Lazenby stars. Telly Savalas plays Blofeld in this one. For fun trivia, Telly Savalas liked to play cards, and he would play cards on set with the crew members because they were working up in the snowy Swiss Alps. They're kind of remote. And he would win a lot of their money. So, and if I remember correctly, it might have been Albert Broccoli himself, the producer, maybe the director, Peter Hunt. I don't know. One of those guys got involved and was a slightly better card player and actually won the money back for the crew from Savalas. So That's a fun one. You know what? I got a bonus one for you because I learned this one myself recently. And I want to say what up to the Chaplain Joe pod. That's my buddy Gary. He's popping and letting us know lots of boxes at Death Pro household lately. That is true. That is true. Telly Savalas plays Blofeld in this, and what I learned recently, maybe you already know this, his name, Telly, is actually short for Aristotle because he's Greek, and if you're Greek, you don't pronounce it Aristotle, you say Aristoteli, if I got that right, but it ends in Telly, T-L-E, and that shortens down to Telly Savalas. So his real first name is Aristotle or Aristoteli. I learned that myself recently. So I promise you a trivia fact. Got a bonus one for the first one. Oh, I got to log it on the spreadsheet. I know you guys are excited about me logging it onto the spreadsheet. So let's take a look. Majesty's Secret Service. This is my third copy of Majesty's Secret Service, bringing the grand total now to 159. Let's see. We started at 158. Let's see where we are by the end of the video. Next out of the box, and again, individually wrapped because Sean doesn't mess around. I'm going to be throwing, I'm going to have plenty of bubble wrap. All right, Thunderball. I want to say that's 1967. That's off the top of my head. Sean Connery's fourth. This was one of the more financially successful ones. Promised you a trivia fact on it. So there's Sean in the chat. Hey, Sean, I'm opening the package that you sent me. It arrived today. Everyone say hi to Sean and tell Sean thanks in the chat for giving us one more live stream video. Sean, you packed these incredibly well, by the way. Thunderball. My fun trivia fact on Thunderball will be this is the first James Bond movie to win an Academy Award, which it won for best. I don't know if it fell under special effects or cinematography, but it won its Academy Award for basically its extensive use and beautiful use of underwater filming, which if you've seen this movie, there's a lot of it. In retrospect, maybe too much of it. Gets a little sleepy, but still a fine Sean Connery outing. Lots to like about Thunderball. This is the one where he wears the jetpack at the beginning. The DB5 is still in it at the beginning. Jarrod's fanciness fun fact. Luciana Paluzzi plays the evil Bond girl in this one. And my table was next to hers at a SpyCon a couple years ago. So I got to know her and chat with her. And if you listen on Her Majesty's Secret podcast, every once in a while I'll play her voice drop. She did a little, this is Luciana Paluzzi and you're listening to on Her Majesty's Secret podcast for us. So she's awesome. So that's Jarrod's fancy fun fact. Sean says in the chat he takes pride in his packaging, and he should because this is ridiculously well packaged. So that is spreadsheet. I know you guys would be so mad if I didn't do the spreadsheet. Thunderball. This is my 14th copy of Thunderball. Grand total now 160. And Sean lets us know in the chat something. He's like reading my mind. He says he loves Luciana Paluzzi in The Green Slime, which I didn't even know about until a couple years ago when I did that SpyCon and she was next to me and she was like signing Green Slime posters. And I was like, oh, I need to see Green Slime. And there's another guy there who's like a vendor. He just sells like toys, magazines, and DVDs and stuff. And I was chatting with him about it. He's like, I've got a copy of Green Slime on, I think it was DVD or Blu-ray. DVD, I think. Anyway, he's like, because I was telling him I didn't know about it, and he was like, yeah, I think he sold it to me for like $2. Can't go wrong, and I enjoyed it as well. Look at the chat being all friendly to each other. Let's find out what's next in my box of fun of 007 fun from Sean. All right, after my own heart, right here, we have The Living Daylights. One of my very favorites. This is a top tier Bond for me. I'm a easy win for the Timothy Dalton era. It's my favorite era as much as it is an era. It's really just 2 years and 2 movies. But I love Timothy Dalton as Bond. So there you have Living Daylights, 1987. The not so fancy fun fact for Jarrod is this is the only James Bond movie in my movie going lifetime. I went and saw my first Bond movie on the big screen in 1983 with Octopussy. This is the only one since Octopussy that I have not seen on the big screen. We are making our move to Germany in 87, and I missed this watching it on the big screen. So one of these days, I'm going to find me a theater that's playing it, retro style, and I'm going to watch it, and I'll have seen everything Octopussy forward. And I've even seen some of the ones pre-Octopussy, that they've re-released. I've seen Dr. No a couple times, actually. Goldfinger, From Russia with Love, and Live and Let Die are the ones sort of pre-Octopussy that I have seen on the big screen. But let's see, a fun fact for this movie. I'll do an inside the Bond universe fun fact. The villain in this one is Brad Whitaker. He's one of the villains. He's the last villain that Bond defeats at the end of the movie. And Brad is played by Joe Don Baker. And for some reason, the Bond movie franchise, aside from sort of the staple key characters, very few actors or actresses get multiple roles. Joe Don Baker ended up returning during the Pierce Brosnan era to play his CIA buddy, Jack Wade. He was Jack Wade in GoldenEye and Tomorrow Never Dies. In fact, I think Mr. Joe Don Baker just passed away this year, I want to say. Unfortunate. But so this is Joe Don Baker's first appearance in a Bond movie, and before he gets his regular character as Jack Wade. All right. Oh, Serpy Matt is in the chat. That's how you know we're going to have us a good time. Let's see. Jim says, I found a few more Bond, Batman, and TMNT VHS for you in my small lot. Jim, why don't you go type in the chat and tell how many people were in the VHS small? Here's the hint. It also says he still has a few more boxes to go. All right. So Jim was buying these. He says small, gigantic lot. He found, I don't know where he finds his website, gigantic lots of VHS tapes. Oh, man, I'm excited that you found some for me, Jim, and I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you in actually a matter of weeks now, my friend. A matter of weeks. All right. And Serpy's being funny in the chat, saying, hey, you finally got a Bond VHS. You can start your collection. I'm glad you said collection because I need to update the spreadsheet. Man, I'm getting bad at this. All right, Living Daylights. That is copy number 9 for me. And the grand total is now 161. There's plenty more in this box, though, from Sean. Sean, these are in really good condition, too. You found these, these boxes are very pristine and very nice. And, yeah, these are very nice VHS tapes, my friend. Coming up next, 1979's Moonraker. James Bond's answer to Star Wars. Which will lead into my very easy trivia fact for this one. If you watched the movie before it, The Spy Who Loved Me, 1977, at the end credits, it says James Bond will return in For Your Eyes Only. As you can see, this is not For Your Eyes Only. Star Wars hit, became a huge craze. They decided they had to get Bond in space with lasers, so Moonraker was made next, and then For Your Eyes Only would be bumped back one, and it would get made in 1981. So yeah, this one jumped the line. And oh, by the way, the book Moonraker is nothing like the movie. Nothing like the movie. They pretty much share a title and the name of the villain, maybe, and that's it. So yeah. There you go. There's Jim admitting to his VHS problem. He picked up 2 lots of 1,300 VHS tapes. For those of you keeping score at home, he has 2,600 VHS tapes. He got it at a pretty good price, too. I remember seeing the price. I won't out you on that, Jim. I don't remember what it was, but I remember it was a good deal. So, yeah, he's got a crazy bunch of VHS that he's combing through. All right, Moonraker. Let's update the spreadsheet. This is only my 4th copy of Moonraker, and the grand total is now 162. And there's plenty more in this box, people. Oh my, we got something a little bit special. Remember how I said the first James Bond movie I saw in 1983 was Octopussy? Well, 83 was an amazing year for James Bond fans because we had not 1 but 2 Bond movies came out because the Rogue production of Never Say Never Again came out in 1983. Octopussy came out in the summer. This one came out in the fall. I did see them both on the big screen and loved them both. I have a ton of love for Never Say Never Again. There's a lot of Bond people that don't like it, won't recognize it. oh, it's not part of the Eon canon, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. It's wonderful. It's fun. Connery is better in this than he was in his final outing with Eon, which was Diamonds Are Forever. He looks better. He seems like he's having more fun. There's a lot to like in this. I have a whole list of things I love about this movie. One of the top things I like about it is I think it has, I want to say the best, but I like David Hedison a lot. Anyway, Felix Leiter. Bernie Casey plays Felix Leiter in this one, and he's a very action-packed Felix Leiter. We're talking lighting up fools with the MAC-10 and all kind of very actiony. Very actiony. So yes, yes. I'll Never Say Never Again. This is one of the ones that's a little bit harder to find because it is kind of considered the bastard Bond. But it is on my list, and I bet I have very few copies of it. Let's take a look. I currently have 2, so let's make that 3 copies of Never Say Never Again. Fantastically, it was just, I don't know if I gave you a real trivia fact or not. Directed by Irving Kershner, and he's the guy who directed Empire Strikes Back. So yeah, it's good. Weakest link in the chain, most people agree, is the score. Doesn't sound Bondy enough for them. I appreciate the fact that they kind of got a little bit away from Bond. The score doesn't bother me as much as it does a lot of people, but I get the complaint. Still, good. I agree with Matt wholeheartedly in the chat, who says Connery as Bond, it doesn't matter what movie he's in. Sean in the chat mentioned for Moonraker, he had the Moonraker trading cards as a kid. He loved those. I have a full set right down here. I have a box where I keep all my trading cards right under this desk, and I have a full set of Moonrakers in there. So yes. My older brother was collecting those when we were kids because he's just a little older than me. I was born in 76. The movie hit in 77. But yeah, we had a bunch of them as kids, and I have since found the rest of them. So I have a whole set. All right, Never Say Never Again has been updated. I have now 3 copies of that, huh? Very cool. All right. Okay. This one now has new and special meaning to me. Next up, we're going to the Brosnan era. It is Tomorrow Never Dies. Tomorrow Never Dies. This is Brosnan's second outing, and I said it has new and special meaning to me because get ready for another Jarrod Fanciness story. Just this past week, I did a interview for our On Her Majesty's Secret podcast channel where we talk about all things Bond. I did an interview with Bruce Fierstein, who wrote this movie. He also wrote GoldenEye and The World Is Not Enough. But in my interview with him, which we actually weren't talking a lot about movies, we were talking about a lot about the video games, because he wrote 5 of the video games as well. But he did mention that this movie is his baby. Like, he feels like this is the most Bruce Fierstein of them all. Like, he had the most amount of control and input. So Tomorrow Never Dies is now new and special feeling for me when I see it. And I've always liked it. It's got Michelle Yeoh in it, and she's always welcome. So yeah, this is, I mentioned earlier, Joe Don Baker was in the Living Daylights. He's also in this one as Jack Wade. So yeah, Tomorrow Never Dies. I love it. You love it. We all love it. In the chat, Gary says, as much as I appreciate Connery and more, I enjoy the Brosnan movies. Nothing wrong with that. My good friend and fellow Bond podcaster on our network, Van Allen Plexico, is a Brosnan guy, and there's nothing wrong with it. I like Pierce quite a bit. Oh, spreadsheet. Got to update the spreadsheet. Tomorrow Never Dies. 11 copies now. All right. Let's see. Sean sounded off in the chat. I have a special place in my heart for Brosnan because he befriended my grandmother when she was an extra on his miniseries Noble House. Very, 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 very cool. I've watched Noble House and podcasted about Noble House with the aforementioned Van Allen Plexico, who is a huge fan of it. I've noticed every time Van asks me to do a podcast with him, it's always something that's at least 3 hours long. He loves to just spend my time watching stuff. All right. Here we go again. It is back to Connery for You Only Live Twice. Fantastic little Bond flick. I think this one was 67. I think I mistakenly said that Thunderball was 67 before, and I think Thunderball was 64, 65. Anyway, you guys don't care about the years. You Only Live Twice. Bond goes to Japan, and he battles Blofeld in the volcano layer. So there's a lot to like in that one. Weird thing I learned about this movie recently is that the main Bond girls, there's two in this one. There's Aki, spoiler alert, she doesn't make it out alive. And then there's Kissy. Aki and Kissy are the two Bond girls of the film. But as you watch the film, Kissy, who if you know the Bond movies, you've heard of Kissy Suzuki. She's the Bond girl of this movie. She's the one he ends up with in a raft at the end, as they do. She's never called out by name in the movie. No one ever calls her Kissy or Suzuki. She just is. Her name is never mentioned in the movie. I think she's credited as Kissy Suzuki. Her name is never spoken aloud in the movie. Weird. All right. So You Only Live Twice. Let's update the spreadsheet. 7 copies now on VHS of You Only Live Twice. Gary in the chat says that You Only Live Twice is his favorite Bond book. It is very much an interesting one, is it not? In fact, is that the one? That might be the one where he dies, quote unquote, or I think that's the one that picks up right after he dies, quote unquote, dies. Which I always think is funny because Fleming, quote unquote, killed Bond in a one of the books and then brought him back. I think in You Only Live Twice, and they killed him. Spoiler alert: the exact same way, almost the exact same way in the latest Bond film, No Time to Die. So I thought that was pretty neat that they did it the Fleming way, and then kind of have their option about what they want to do next. Okay, let's move to 1985. 1985 is Roger Moore's last picture, which is A View to a Kill. Special place in my heart on this one. I am maybe the world's biggest Christopher Walken fan, and Christopher Walken plays Max Zorin, the bad guy in this one. This was, again, Roger's last film. He was 56, 57-ish. And what's wild about that is I think Tom Cruise was that age when he did the 6th of his 8 Mission Impossible movies. So, yeah. Good flick. He catches a lot of flack because Roger is getting pretty old in this one, but it still has a fun factor that can't be denied. The theme song, is it still the only one that went to number 1 on the top 40? I can't remember if Adele's Skyfall hit number 1. It might have gone to number 2. This one might still be the only Bond song that hit number 1. That's what I'm going with. That's my fun fact. It might not even be a fact anymore, but hey, let's update the spreadsheet. A View to a Kill. This is my 7th copy of A View to a Kill. And the box just keeps on giving. Thanks again to Sean. I like how Serpy Matt, I can't show you unless you're in the chat how he's chatting like Christopher Walken would talk. And I'll just let you, for those of you in the chat, know what I mean. For those of you who aren't in the chat, you just go to YouTube, look at the chat. It's very funny. You're very clever, Matt. Very funny. All right. Well, rounding out my Timothy Dalton love, I also have the second film, thanks to Sean. I have License to Kill from 1989, which, fun fact about Jarrod, this is my favorite James Bond movie, period. For the longest time, I was kind of a Goldfinger guy. A few years ago, I went through and watched them all again with my older son. This was a few years ago. He's 19 now. I think he was 13 or 14 when we went through them all together. And he ended up saying that this one was his favorite, and I had to agree with him through the rewatch. I was like, I really like this one. Could be nostalgia, certainly. This is one of the ones I saw on the big screen when I lived in Germany. It is certainly a very happy memory for me. I love License to Kill. Robert Davi as Sanchez is agreed upon to be one of the greatest Bond villains in Bond movie history. So it's also, I think, the second movie for Benicio del Toro. The first one he did, his first big movie was Big Top Pee-wee, where he played the dog-faced boy. And then he got the henchman role in this one, Dario. His name is Dario. I think he was 19 or 20 when he made this movie. And I saw an interview with him recently where he talked about how after he did this one, I think he didn't get work on another movie for like over a year. He basically said, well, once I've got Bond, work will just flow my way. And it didn't. But he also said, once you get Bond, the Bond money does flow your way. So he was okay for that year. He had the Bond. He said Bond pay. I think he said Bond pays well. And so he was able to keep himself afloat pretty easily for that over a year before he got work. Yes. And Serpy Matt, he's come to see the light in the chat. He said that he never saw Dalton ones until the last few years, and people gave him a lot of hate, but he really liked them. Yeah, there's a bizarre factor of people out there that don't like Dalton, and I love Dalton. Dalton, by the way, is the most literary Bond. Timothy Dalton himself, when he got the role, really got into reading and rereading the Fleming and wanting his Bond to be as close to Fleming Bond as possible. And so he has a harder edge. And I think a lot of the hate for Dalton comes because he did that coming on the heels of Roger Moore, which he was such a light, airy, fun Bond. And then Dalton came in and went kind of darker, grittier, assassin Bond. And I just don't think the world was ready for that transition yet. But they were when Craig did it, because then the critics fell all over themselves about how great Craig was with all that. And I'm like, nah, my boy Timmy did it first. But hey, that's an argument that I've made about 6,000 times. If this is your first time hearing it, sound off in the chat. All right, let's go to License to Kill on the spreadsheet. This is my 8th copy of License to Kill. Boom. Looks like we probably have, by feel, maybe 5 more to go. Okay, this is 1977. This is The Spy Who Loved Me. Okay, Roger Moore's third, I think, Bond film. And starring Kurt Jurgens as the bad guy. Barbara Bach as Agent XXX, his partner and love interest for the film. All right, so fun facts about The Spy Who Loved Me. I have a couple of them. Which one should I go with? You know what? I gotta love the fact that very, 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 very few movies had the stones to even release in 1977. If you look at how many movies were released year to year, you're going to see a big dip in 77 because Star Wars hits and it hits big. Star Wars stays in theaters for like almost 2 full years. Those of you who weren't around when that happened, Star Wars was eating the box office. So most other movies decided to hold off their release till 78 or 79. James Bond released in 77. This is pretty, I can't think of another one. People in chat might be able to, but this is pretty much the only movie that went up against Star Wars and still made good money. So James Bond was the only one that could step in with Star Wars, step into the ring. I mean, they didn't even make Star Wars money. Let's not fool ourselves, but at least they stepped in the ring and had a good showing and made some profit. So that's The Spy Who Loved Me, 1977. I consider it the most cookie cutter of all James Bond films, and I don't even mean that in a bad way. It's like Moore came in with Live and Let Die and The Man with the Golden Gun, and people were still kind of lukewarm on Moore, and especially Man with the Golden Gun didn't perform like they really wanted it to. They needed a big hit, and so they did this very sort of cookie cutter. They basically took every cool Bond trope and put it in this movie. And don't worry about a compelling story. It's okay. It's basically a retelling of You Only Live Twice. Don't look for a super compelling story, but look for really neat beats, like Bond beats, like classic, just one beat after another. That's what this movie gives you. I'm not even mad about it. It's everything you want. A lot of people say if you're going to show someone a movie to introduce them to the whole franchise, this would be the one. And I get it because it's very Bond beats. Hey, Courtney, welcome to the chat. I always love to see Courtney stop by. Courtney, at least I'm not struggling with the packaging today, although it is very well packaged. Oh, Courtney says, who is your Mount Rushmore of Bonds? Now, if we're talking actors, Courtney, Timothy Dalton, Sean Connery, Roger. I'm debating between Pierce and George. I'll give it to Pierce just because he got more movies. There's my Mount Rushmore, my top 4. Now, if we're talking Bond movies, License to Kill, GoldenEye, Goldfinger, For Your Eyes Only. That could shift a little the way the winds change, but those are my top 4. All right. Speaking of For Your Eyes Only, which just made my top 4, there it is, 1981. I consider this to be Roger Moore's best outing as James Bond. It is definitely his darkest of them all, although it still has a fair amount of Roger Moore lightheartedness to it. He's definitely darker in this one, and I think that's a reflection of Bond kind of always wants to reinvent itself and do something different from the last movie. The one before this, we talked about before, was Moonraker. It was very out there, very Bond in space, very sort of a wacky premise. And I think they said, let's get him back down to earth quite literally in For Your Eyes Only. This is a really, really, really cool movie. I'll give you a fun fact. A fun fact on this one. The score on this one is done by Bill Conti. Bill Conti did one James Bond movie score, and this is it. It's not bad, but you would much more recognize his music from Rocky. He wrote the Rocky music, the very famous Rocky theme. It's Bill Conti. He also did this movie. So, I got to update the spreadsheet. Let's see here. Ooh. You guys need to stay on top of me because I did not update it after The Spy Who Loved Me. So I got to do both of those. All right, Spy Who Loved Me. Don't let me miss updating the spreadsheets, people. I now have 5 copies of Spy Who Loved Me. For Your Eyes Only. I now have 10 copies of that on VHS. All right, just a couple left out of my box of fanciness, courtesy of Sean. All right, the next one up is the aforementioned The Man with the Golden Gun. All right, great Bond movie. Again, it didn't perform super well at the box office. I mean, it didn't lose money or anything. I don't think a Bond movie's ever lost money. But it was one of the lower performers. It also came out, I think, just 1 year after Roger's debut as Bond. 1 year, maybe 2, in Live and Let Die. But anyway, this is a GoldenEye, Roger Moore classic. The villain, Scaramanga, who is the man with the golden gun, is played by Christopher Lee. So, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good get for a Bond villain, if you ask me. But it's a cool movie. The main song is sung by Lulu, British pop singer at the time. And let's see, fun fact. Okay, this movie has one of the coolest stunts in James Bond history. This is where they do the corkscrew jump with the car, with the slide whistle, which most people hate. I agree, they should just dead silence, no slide whistle, but it is what it is. That's the first stunt that was done with a computer model. They computer modeled it first to try to figure out the speed, the velocity, the angle, the ramps, all that stuff. And then a dude got in it and he did that stunt. And what you see on this film is that stunt being done live for the very first time. The computer model said, if you hit this ramp and this ramp's at this angle and the other ramp's at that angle and you hit the ramp at this speed, you'll corkscrew it perfectly. And the computer was right, thank goodness. One take, one jump. Very, very cool. Man with the Golden Gun, let's update it. Now have 7 copies of The Man with the Golden Gun. Here we go. Here it is. Here's 1983's Octopussy, first one I ever saw on the big screen as a young lad. This one even still has the little paperwork that comes inside the DVD for, like, I think you could, like, go into a sweepstakes. In the 90s, action adventure is a 4-letter word. And it's got Bond, and it's got own them all at only $14.95 or less. you can save $3. Got a coupon in there. So this is neat. It's got all the little periphery stuff still in it. That's kind of cool. Because this was all these ones that Sean sent me are from the 90s versions. You can tell because they switch up the box art a little bit throughout the years. So yeah, Octopussy 83, Jarrod's first one on the big screen. A pretty good Bond performance. A really good score by John Barry. One of my favorite Barry scores, actually, Octopussy. I would say it's top 3 for me. There goes that paperwork. Let's see. Fun fact. Oh, remember how I said Bond actors and actresses very rarely appear more than once? Well, this one, Octopussy herself, is played by Maud Adams, who was formerly a Bond girl in Man with the Golden Gun. She was the Man with the Golden Gun's lady friend. That Bond does Bond things with her. So, but anyway, Maud Adams is one of the very, very few ladies of Bond to get 2 films. A double piece of trivia. Maybe I can add it to one of the upcoming. Oh, don't forget to update the spreadsheet. Maybe I can add this double piece of trivia to an upcoming one. Let me peek at the box. 11 copies of Octopussy now. Oh, there's only one left, so let's see if it's going to help me with double trivia. It's not. So double trivia is the first Bond girl to be in more than one movie. Is actually the first Bond girl. So in Connery's very famous line, name's Bond, James Bond, he's talking to a woman at a gambling table named Sylvia Trench. He and Sylvia go back to spend some time together. And then at the very beginning of the next movie, From Russia with Love, he and Sylvia Trench are spending some time together at a picnic. So the very, very, very first Bond girl in the Eon production is also the very, very first one to get 2 movies. Maud Adams also did it. All right, final VHS tape. It also has the paperwork inside because it all just fell out again. Diamonds Are Forever. Connery's last film, his return to Bond, his $1 million Bond movie. He might have been, I think, the first actor to get $1 million for a movie because he had left the franchise after You Only Live Twice. They replaced him with George Lazenby with On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And when the Lazenby thing didn't work out for a myriad of reasons, they asked Sean to come back. He said he would do it for $1 million, an unheard of sum at the time, but they paid it. And then he gave it away to charity. So that is your fun fact about Diamonds Are Forever, starring Sean Connery. His last official Eon Bond, although he would return to the role not once but twice. He would return to the role for Never Say Never Again in 1983. And then he returned to the role in the video game. He did the voice for the video game From Russia with Love. So, yeah, this is pretty fun and awesome, sort of very 70s James Bond. Sean Connery's a lot of fun in this one. This is one of, I would say, it's probably his most lighthearted one. Some folks don't like that. Some folks think he was getting a little too old, a little paunchy for it, but I think that's funny because I think I do think he looks better. This was 1971, and I actually think he looks better and seems like he's having more fun with the role in 1983, 12 years later, and Never Say Never Again. But I still like Diamonds Are Forever. Charles Gray plays Blofeld. He's great. Jimmy Dean, the Sausage King, is in the movie. And fun, I'm glad we landed on this one because you get a fun, fancy Jarrod Bond fact. I have had a dinner with 2 lovely ladies from this film, Lana Wood and Trina Parks. Lana Wood played Plenty O'Toole, who got thrown into a pool from a very high building in this movie. And Trina Parks, who played Thumper. If you remember, Bond has to fight these 2 like very athletic women, Bambi and Thumper. Trina Parks played Thumper. I got to go to dinner with the 2 of them and listen to their stories, and it was a great time. So, Jarrod's fancy fun facts. And yes, Courtney in the chat reminds us that Jimmy Dean sang a Christmas song. And you guys let me get away with it again. I need to put that one in the spreadsheet. That was I just need to fix the spelling of Moonraker on my spreadsheet. It says Monraker. Don't know what a Monraker is. For that matter, I don't know what a Moonraker is. But that was Diamonds Are Forever. I now have 9 copies of that. Okay. Man, Sean's grandmother was friends with everybody, including Jimmy Dean. Anyway, so, hey, I want to say hi to Scott, who made it into the chat. That's very cool. I was just watching the chat there, got distracted, and now I can't remember if I put in if I updated the man with the golden gun. I'm gonna have to look at that one, but we'll just say that I did. I can always go back and watch the video see if I put it into the spreadsheet. But according to the spreadsheet, thanks to Sean and that box that I believe we are now done with. Yes, it is now empty. My James Bond on VHS total now sits at 172. So I have 172 James Bond films on VHS. Thank you to Sean for finding that bargain for me. And I guess that is it for this episode's mail call here on the Longbox Crusade Network. We'll see what fanciness comes in the mail for me next time. I doubt we'll have another back-to-back episode, but you never know. I don't think they deliver mail to me on Sunday. Anyway, I really want to say, again, thanks to Sean for that really cool package. And thanks to everybody in the chat that came by to say hello. You guys make this so much fun. And just as your reminder, Longbox Crusade, any podcatcher you type that into, you're going to find us, of course, on YouTube as well. So yeah, good. Spotify, type Longbox Crusade into any computer. Just start typing Longbox Crusade. You'll find us. And we are on all the social medias at that. We'd love if you give us a follow, give us a subscription. And we just really like chatting with you guys. We love our audience. So thanks again for that. I am, of course, at Yard Sale Artist. If you're not already following me on X, Facebook, and Instagram, I would greatly appreciate it. And I think with that, guys, I will act frozen. I will see you all soon. I'm totally frozen.